18, and I am with the slightly yellow Stuart Rance. Welcome, Stuart.
I'm enjoying the jazz band.
Yeah, me too.
I don't know if the microphones can pick them up, but I love a bit of jazz.
They'll be there in the background. Can we talk about change management?
Oh, yeah, I love talking about change management.
Just want to hear what you're... Just have you got some little nuggets of, new nuggets of wisdom about that? Because, it's one of those things that's been around for forever. And I know you do a lot of work on that. And there's a lot of talk about, do we kill off the cab and do we this? Well, if you're working with an organisation at the moment and you're trying to help them to do change, how do you...
The funny thing is I am working with an organisation at the moment and I am helping them to do change, and they have a weekly cab meeting and all the paraphernalia that you get with a fairly old-fashioned traditional change management process, and I'm helping them to bring it into at least the 20th century. And the way we're doing it is quite interesting, because what we've done is we started by defining some policy statements of what change management has to achieve, based on talking to the people who govern and talking to the compliance managers and the security managers about what they care about. So we've been given some stipulations such as separation of duties between people who develop and people who deploy, given from the governance. And every change must be reviewed by somebody competent to judge security, integrity, availability.
Every change.
Yeah. Every change must be. So what do? We've gone to each development team and we've shown them this list of things that must be achieved, and we've said, we don't care how you do it. You're very welcome to use the corporate change management process if that works for you, but what we suggest you do is define change models for the changes you do and define each one. So one particular team says, right, what we're going to do is, for this type of change, we've got a development team in the UK and one in India, and we'll develop in one, and then the other one will do a peer review.
Yeah. And
then the deployment will be by somebody different from within the team. But for this type of change, we want to stick with the corporate change management process, because actually we see a value in that level of scrutiny, and if they take an extra week, it doesn't matter. The huge benefit, what I found fascinating in this, was they came back to me after they'd been doing it for only 2 or 3 weeks, and they said, do you know what, this peer review is having such a fabulous benefit in terms of mentoring between our local and remote development teams. We're sharing skills, we're sharing knowledge, we're sharing understanding, and we found some errors. Isn't that lovely? And because it's their change management process for their change model, they've taken ownership and they're improving it and modifying it, but they're producing all the audit records. And the thing is, we did that by telling them what outcome was needed and then trusting people to design their own process.
Do you provide any kind of principles or clarity around about how they decide what kind of, as you said, you don't care how they get there?
We work with them. So we've told them what we're trying to achieve, and then we sit with them and they say, how about we do this? And we say, yes, have you thought about maybe a bit of that? And so we offer guidance and advice, but it's theirs. They have to own it, because I'm going to go away when the project's finished. I'm an external consultant, but I'm just watching these people wake up to the fact that it's their change management. In this development team, they need to be confident that what they're doing meets the governance objectives of their own organisation, and they're taking it on board. I'm going out to wherever it is, I won't say what country it's in, to see a different development team next week, and we'll do a similar exercise, and I've no doubt we'll have something similar happen, that they will own their own changes mostly, but some they'll say better put those to the cab, because...
And how much of that, from your knowledge and experience, is new ideas, or is it just a better implementation of
if
we've already known in the past?
Service transition, it says you should define change models, it said you should delegate change authority to the right place in the organisation and have a hierarchic approach where some changes go up the board of management. And so it's adapting and adopting the guidance in the publication in a way that fits the organisation and the modern way of working.
A common sense way of doing that.
It's trying to move away from a command and control approach towards a collaborative approach, which kind of makes sense for most people most of the time.
Well, it does. I mean, it still scares some organisations, but I mean, even from our members, some of the, not just government, but defence and security types of organisations are looking at how they do things more.
And so long as
they
have an auditable record that says it was developed by one person, it was reviewed by a different person who was competent to do that review, it was then deployed by somebody independent.
Yeah.
That's what they need, and that's what they're getting, but they're getting it without the bureaucracy and the overhead.
Well, anything that reduces that is going to be helpful. How does that, just sort of squaring round then to, I mean, presumably we want to do more of that kind of thing in the, well, not just change but development cycles. Are you seeing the same things happen? I mean, obviously the way that Agile and DevOps has happened in the last few years is doing that, but is there enough integration of that with operational transition?
I'm seeing Agile moving into operations a lot lately. I'm seeing Lean across the organisation as well. So if you're doing Agile and you're doing Lean and you're doing IT service management, you're pretty close to DevOps, aren't you? I no longer see the 2 or 3 year ITSM project where the value starts after the first 30 months. They just don't exist anymore. People are looking to what's the minimum viable change, how can I get value quickly and then build on it with iterative approaches and feedback. And it started in the software development environment, but it's now moved wholesale into the IT service management environment. Are you seeing the same?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely much more. I still see quite a lot of organisations where they've created a DevOps team and and not really integrated it at all. But we're definitely seeing much more kind of mainstream, or we get a lot of people in our workshops just saying how do we pull it together? They want to pull it together, and then it's just a matter. The will is there, so once they've got the will to do it, they'll make it happen.
I mentioned Lean before. Lean has this concept of non-value add, things you do that don't increase value. And it's also got another interesting concept of necessary non-value add. So for example, things you do to produce an audit trail for your compliance people, you have to do them, it's necessary, but it doesn't create extra value, it's necessary non-value add. And once you've recognised that that's what you're doing, then you can think, how do we optimise it? Because we want to spend as little time as possible whilst producing the necessary outcome. And that fits so nicely with the ideas from Agile of, right, let's get this, pare this down so quick,
so don't end up,
cheerful, get there.
Calling people non-value add and all that sort of stuff.
I wouldn't use the phrase non-value add whilst talking to somebody about their job because that's unhelpful. But whilst talking to Lean practitioners about how to analyse work, it's a helpful way of recognising that this is something you need to minimise whilst still delivering what's required.
Okay, that's really interesting. Can I just ask, what will be next year's colour du jour for you?
Ooh, I've just ordered a bright red jacket.
You heard it here first. Thanks, Stuart.
Thank you, Barclay.